Mesa Verde, and welcome back. Well, we've covered a lot of things, and we've talked about old fashions now a couple of different times. So what we're going to do today is I'm going to talk about some ways you can do an old fashioned if you don't like bourbon or rye or one of those, base spirits that people typically think of when they do old fashions. On top of that, another really popular cocktail we do a lot here are mules. Typically we do a lot of Russian mules here, that's what we have on our list. For that we use the Stoli lime, so it kind of adds that lime element to it. We're going to talk about some alternatives to those. So, quick thing to keep in mind, with your old fashions, here's some on my left, you want a nicer spirit. You want something where it's going to be the primary focus. That's why for the rum I have, for like a rum old fashioned, I'd want to use something like this. This is an extra añejo rum. For your scotches, I recommend maybe a blended scotch over a straight Highland or smoky or something like that. That way you get a nice, well-balanced old fashioned. You could do brandy or cognac in a Wisconsin old fashioned, and then a nicer tequila for your Jalisco Old Fashioned. Jalisco, of course, being where tequila comes from. All right, so for the mules, you don't need to do something as intense of a spirit. In fact, some of these mules have some base spirits already. So the Jameson mule is called Dublin Donkey. You can do a Kentucky mule, which is bourbon based, and then there's the El Burro, which is a tequila base. And then lastly, you have a Havana or a Cuban mule, which is rum based. And the fun thing about the rum based ones is kind of similar to another drink that already exists. It's called a dark and stormy. For that one, you want dark rum and ginger beer, and that's it. Maybe with a squeeze of lime at the end. So I wouldn't use the dark rum for your regular mule if you want to do a rum based mule, so we'll just get rid of that. Instead, we'll use something like the real McCoy, slightly aged, not overly intense. I would avoid probably Captain Morgan type spice rums, because the spices and the ginger and everything, it's gonna start tasting not as good. So the first one we're gonna make a Scotch old fashioned. So I'm using the Dewar's. It's a little smokier than some of your other blended Scotches. I think it works really well with this because it's a nice mixture of malt and Scotch. Next thing we're gonna use is molasses. Now normally I would actually use something like malt extract or malt syrup, but not everybody has access to that. And molasses is an easy replacement to come by. It's a little sweeter, so we're going to reduce it a little bit. And then we're going to use the Angostura bitters, and then we're going to use regular simple syrup. Now we're going to use regular simple syrup because I don't want all that extra flavor that comes from the turbinado syrup that we use with our old fashions here. We're going to do 2 ounces of Scotch, 1 bar spoon worth of simple syrup, 1 bar spoon worth of molasses, stir it in our beaker with ice, strain it, and then top it with 3 dashes of Angostura bitters. Alright, so the next alternate old fashioned we're going to do a Jalisco Old Fashioned. So this one's based off tequila. I'm going to use this Cincoro Reposado. It should add a lot more flavor. It's well aged. Cincoro actually ages the Reposados almost to the point where it becomes an añejo, so it adds a lot of flavor. And then we're going to use our Angostura bitters. We're going to use agave syrup. So instead of using simple syrup or something like that, we're going to use agave. Tequila is made from agave, thus we're going to use more of those flavoring components. If you want to learn more about tequila, click up here. And then lastly, we're going to top it off with a flamed orange zest. So that smokiness will add a little more flavor to it and complexity to it. We're going to use 2 ounces of tequila, 1 bar spoon of agave, 2 dashes of Angostura bitters, give it a nice stir, strain into a glass, and top with a flaming orange peel. Alright, so we did the old fashions, now we're on to our mules. First one we're going to do is the El Burro. So the burro, it's really simple. You got tequila. We're using just the generic Hornitos Reposado. It won't add a ton of in-your-face, loud flavors. It'll be a little more mellower as far as tequilas go, which is kind of what we want because the ginger beer will take a lot of flavor and elements to it. So we don't want there to be too much of a battle. We want there to be more harmoniousness. So we're going to use the Hornitos. We're going to do Angostura bitters again, and then lime juice, simple syrup. We're just going to sweeten it up a little bit and then build it in your copper cup, just like you would normal mule, garnish with a lime. So it's going to be 2 ounces of Reposado, ½ ounce of lime juice, 1/4 ounce of simple syrup, 3 dashes of bitters, topped with ginger beer. Our last cocktail today is a rum mule. So it's called either Cuban mule or Havana mule, because rum is known for coming from Cuba. I mean, you get rum all over the place. So for this, we're using the real McCoy. It's one of the original rums. It's got a fun little history. If you want to ever know, you can ask myself or Greg. And then we got our cup with ice, lime, ready to go. We're gonna use turbinado syrup this time. Remember, turbinado syrup is sugar in the raw. It's a simple syrup made with that. The reason we use this over regular simple syrup for this cocktail is because this is made from sugarcane. This is the rawest form of sugar turned into a syrup. So these are gonna be very compatible flavors. And then we got lime juice, our ginger beer, and this one we're gonna top with a little bit of mint, just to add a little bit of flavor. 2 ounces of rum, 1 bar spoon of turbinado syrup, 1/2 ounce of lime juice, give it a quick little stir, top with ginger beer, and then garnish with your mint leaf and lime wedge. Before you garnish the mint, you want to smack it in your hand. What this does is it opens up all of the esters and flavors, so you can really smell the mint. All right, I hope you guys found a cocktail you want to try, something that you're like, I like old fashions, but I don't like bourbon. Well, give one of these a try. Same thing with the mules. Come back, join us sometime soon, and order one of these cocktails. Get something a little different, try something new. Well, anyways, hope you enjoyed that. I'm gonna go and thank you.